Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be a little bit different than the previous ones that I've done. I am going to be showing you 4 easy vintage DIY projects you can do with your thrifted finds, and this picture back here is one of them. So let's get into the video. For the first vintage DIY, I thrifted these 2 white linen dresses. I got them in the kids section at Goodwill. I just thought they were really pretty, but they are very white, so I'm going to tea dye them to make them look more vintage. I had seen a vintage child dress at the thrift store recently and they wanted $16 for it, which isn't bad, but I got these for about like $3 or $4 each, and I can just tea dye them myself and make them look vintage. So this is them before, and they're really white, and I'm gonna put them in the I just put the Lipton tea bags in the water and boiled them, and they just got done, so I'm gonna put them in the hot water. Okay, so I'm just gonna pour this hot water into a bowl, and I'm just gonna leave the tea bags in there, and then I'm just gonna put the dress in there. And I'm going to put the second one in there, and then just use a spoon or something to get them totally soaked because the water is still really hot. It literally just got done boiling. And then you just let it sit in there for a little bit and soak up all that tea dye. Okay, so I let them sit for about 10 minutes, and then you just put them in the sink and rinse them out with some cold water. And the color will lighten up a little bit as you rinse it, so it's not so dark. Okay, and I have this clothes rack outside, and I'm just going to hang them up to dry outside in the sun, and I will show you them when they're all done. And here are the dresses, all finished and dried and tea dyed. They aren't as dark as they were when I first tea dyed them, so I think they look really good and aged, and the cross turned out a little bit whiter than the rest of the dress, which I actually like because it helps it stand out. So there you go. You can turn any white item looking vintage with just some tea dye, and I really like the way they turned out. So for the next DIY vintage project, you're just going to need some old vintage baby shoes that have the holes in the sides, some of this natural raffia stuffing, and a ribbon of your liking. And I cut my ribbon on an angle so you can stick the pointy part into the inside hole of this shoe and then stick it through the next hole on the inside of the other shoe. So you're just gonna pull the ribbon through those 2 holes and tie a bow at the top. After you tie the bow at the top so that you can hang them, you just take the natural raffia and you stick it in each shoe like that so you can see it coming out. Okay, after I stuffed the shoes, I just hung them on a peg rack, and I just kind of staggered them so one was higher than the other, and I think they turned out really good. For the next project, I just have this vintage picture frame that I thrifted and some more of that ribbon, which I actually thrifted also at Goodwill, and then this boxwood wreath that I also thrifted. But I will link down below that you can get this ribbon, the wreath, and the raffia from the last project all on Amazon. So this one is really simple, and I'm just going to take this ribbon and loop it through the wreath and tie it around the top of the frame and tie a bow at the top and hang it on the wall. Okay, so I just hung the frame on the wall, and I have the wreath tied around it with the ribbon. and I think it just really elevates the look of the vintage frame hanging on the wall. And for the last project, I have thrifted several vintage frames. I got some from Goodwill and some from estate sales. I also thrifted a vintage hymnal and some vintage photos. And you're just gonna need a scissor and some tape. Alright, so here is the large frame that I just finished. I just ripped out some of the hymnal pages and taped them on there, and then taped some of the vintage pictures I had. And here is one of the smaller frames that I did. I really love this baby picture, how she has the long white dress on and the fur in the background. I think it's just precious, and I actually took some more of that leftover ribbon I had and tied it to the back to hang it on the pegboard instead of just hanging it on the wall. And I actually wound up doing this one as well, and I love how I got the hymnal page that says Amazing Grace on the top. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing, like, and comment, and I'll see you next time.